All right, then, to start off, would you like to just introduce yourself for the camera and tell us a
Sure.
bit about why you're here today?
Hey, everybody. My name is Amy Dorsey, and I'm a proud transgender woman. I live in Las Vegas, and I'm here on behalf of basic American rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and our ability to express those rights.
Yep, that's what we're talking about is the human rights aspect. That's the main thing I'm concerned with personally is just people's rights and making sure people are taken care of.
Yes.
Are you associated with any like group or organization?
I've been affiliated with the Center Las Vegas, Abundant Peace UCC Church, but I'm a free agent. I just do what I see as fundamentally right for the people of Las Vegas.
I mean, makes sense. I've never really done this before, so I'm just trying to think.
You're doing
of
fine.
questions. I guess. Would you just like to say a little bit about like your experience then as a transgender woman? Just kind of share some stories.
Sure, yeah. Being transgender is a beautiful, challenging experience, and I think what it means to be trans has changed in recent years, and it's always been a difficult thing to be. It's always been sort of like it's out of the norm, and people don't like what's out of the norm generally.
Yeah.
And so now we're expressing ourselves more loudly and proudly, and I think that's kind of where this conversation comes from. But we've been around forever.
Yeah.
You can document us from like 3000 BC.
Yep.
And
people tend to think that trans is like something brand new that just popped into existence, but it's always been a part of humanity, and you can find that kind of evidence, like you said.
Yeah. Trans people have always been around. Intersex people have always been around. So in some ways, we're just challenging really like silly ideas about like, there are two genders, and like the fact is there are way more than two genders. There's 46 or 47 genetic expressions of gender biologically. So it's I don't know. We're just fighting for the expression of like the truth of our reality, really.
Yeah, like you just want to be able to be yourself.
That's right.
And to go off of that as well, another good example of how you can see it through history is a lot of people will view the traditional binary of male and female, and when they look at ancient cultures, they'll apply that vision to them. But if you go back to ancient cultures, even ones that have like strict gender roles or rituals, you can sometimes find examples of, say, a person who genetically appears to be like female but was given the male burial rights, or vice versa. Like you can find that kind of
That's
evidence.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's great to know. And I think that like our rules about gender don't apply to those societies.
Like, people apply their modern viewpoint to the past when you have to kind of view it through the viewpoint of it's a different culture and it's a different lens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny too because you can look at like 19th century America and see Civil War soldiers who were transgender. So like, people who were assigned female at birth who were fighting in the Civil War as men because they wanted to fight the war, right? So like this is part of our history.
Yeah, you're still people. You still have causes that you believe in and feelings and emotions. And that's something that people try to disregard. They try to dehumanize people because they're different.
Yeah. And I think that's out of fear, and I think it's out of just like a discomfort with what is unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And I think part of what I'm doing and my goal is to just become more familiar. You know what I mean? It's like I would literally sit down for a coffee or tea with anybody who was willing to have a conversation with me, because like that's all it takes, I think, is to just say like, hey, you know what? Here's a human being, right? Here's a normal person who, likes to go to bed early with a cup of herbal tea, likes to work out, likes to have a laugh,
just like everyone,
just like everybody else. Exactly. So,
and it's like you said, it's just that fear of difference. There's kind of an innate fear a lot of people have of something that is different or unknown.
Right.
And it is a big part of that is just like you've got to interact with people and like expand your worldview.
The gay rights movement broke out, like in 2008, California voted against legalizing gay marriage, voted for Barack Obama in like an overwhelming majority, and voted against gay marriage. And what's changed between 2008 and now is that everybody realized that they knew a gay person.
Yeah.
Right? And so like as people became more visible, they became less of a threat. you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's our job, is to become more visible and perceived as less of a threat, so that we can be loved and embraced and, brought into the fold.
Yeah. A good example that I've heard about from my family, my mom, she was telling me about like when she was growing up, she had a best friend that she was very close with, that she developed a big crush on. And when she revealed this to him, he responded by telling her that he was actually gay. And she literally screamed, "You're what?" so loud that the neighbors heard. And it was this, because like at the time in like the 80s, or like 80s, when this would have been, it was not that common, and it was like a lot of people were still in the closet and like afraid,
especially because of the AIDS epidemic too.
Yeah, definitely. There was that big stigma against it. And there was that initial wave of shock, but then the realization that like this is still the same person that I've known this whole time. They're no different just because they're gay or lesbian or queer or whatever. Like,
and it took that exposure, right?
It took that exposure and that initial shock,
yes.
and then a little bit of time to just kind of work through it and realize, like, yeah, they're just another person.
I had that experience with my mother. I came out to her twice, because I came out as gay a long time ago, and then I came out as trans after that. Mom, I'm done, I promise.
No, just gotta add to the list.
I'm working on the next one. No, I'm kidding, I'm done. But anyway, when I came out as trans the second time, she was like shocked for like 2 weeks.
Oh.
And then she found a therapist who works with the family members of transgender people, and just turned a corner and has been my best friend ever since, and like she and I were just on the phone as I was driving over here, she's my best friend, and it took her a minute to get through that initial shock, but she was able to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just that time to process and realize.
Yeah.
And let me see now. To call back to to trans history, did you hear about what's going on with the Stonewall Monument recently?
Yes. Now, okay. So I was so frustrated by the headline that I was like, I'm not reading this effing story. I'll tell you what I have to say about it. I want to hear a little bit more from you. Judy Bowen Weiner lives in this city. She's been here since '99, but she lived in New York in 1969, and she lived at 16 Christopher Street. And she walked home from work that night into the riot, into Stonewall, And Judy's a transgender pioneer and hero, and she was there, And the fact is that, like, you can take a word off of a website, but you can't change the fact that Judy was there, and Marsha P. Johnson was there, and Sylvia Rivera were there, and they were working their tits off to, make life for me possible.
Yeah.
So I just think it's totally abominable, honestly, and like beyond silly and outrageous.
Yeah, it's awful because it's erasure of the people that were actually involved, the people that were actually there. And that's the worst part, is that it is censorship. It's the removal of those people and the trying to remove them from the event. And that's like, you see that in pretty much all of the like worst governments throughout history, is they try to censor and they try to remove mentions of minorities who have been a big part of the culture or government or whatever.
Yeah. Well, so two things about that. One is that we need allyship more than we've ever needed it, honestly. We really are a small group, and that's our greatest challenge, is just that we're small. We are not weak. We are small, but we are not weak. But we need our friends, and like we need our lesbian, gay, bisexual friends, and then we need allyship beyond that too. And like, the reason I'm standing here talking on camera is because like I just want you to know that like we need you. I need you, and your support and love and help and humanity are the things that we need.
Yeah. I mean, that allyship is extremely important, and that's they're trying to drive a wedge between that unity. That's why there's that effort to remove the T from LGB, and which I think that is awful. Just because that's what they switch it to on the Stonewall Monument, is just LGB and just dropping the T, and they're trying to drive that wedge between what should be a united effort.
Yeah, I did read something in the New York Times today that basically said, like, when they have to erase history, that's a sign of weakness.
Yep.
And so like we can't rest on our laurels and just sit around